the latest news.
The news, weather, and sports that you need, especially looking ahead to tomorrow, because we are tracking a first alert day. Our first alert team is following that, so we're going to begin the broadcast tonight with Chief Meteorologist Nick Jansen. Nick, could be a little stormy tomorrow.
Yes, so we are tracking a line of showers and thunderstorms on the way for tomorrow evening. So we do have a first alert day in effect for tomorrow. We'll pull up those weather graphics for us here, as that first alert day will be in effect mainly for the evening commute coming up tomorrow night. So here's what to know tracking those storms for Tuesday. We have a level 2 out of 5 for areas in orange, and that's really Highway 52 into the west. So some strong to severe thunderstorms. I think the overall threat will be fairly isolated in terms of just how strong these thunderstorms will be. Timing-wise, 4 to 10 o'clock tomorrow evening, and I think for Highway 52, you're probably looking right in the middle of that 4 to 10 o'clock range for tomorrow. Where we're looking at, main threat will be west of the Mississippi River throughout the evening hours tomorrow. Currently, everything quiet, really warm outside here this afternoon and evening with those dew points warming all the way up into the mid-60s. We do have a flash flood warning issued for areas just east there of Decorah, so we still have some showers and thunderstorms impacting a couple of our northern Iowa counties. What we're tracking for tomorrow is that next weather maker that'll be on the way, that low pressure system that we have out near Billings, Montana. That low will move in tomorrow along with that frontal boundary that is just behind that low. They kind of combine into one weather maker for tomorrow, and that'll bring with it the chance for those strong to severe thunderstorms. Looking at the timing for tomorrow, notice that best chance for most of us here along Highway 52, it'll be from about 6 to 8 o'clock tomorrow. I think a little earlier for areas along and west of I-35, you're probably looking at more 4 to 6. And then for Rochester, looking at 6 to 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. Outside here, loosen out a live camera, a lot of sunshine, and those dew points are pretty warm into the mid-60s right now, upper 60s for that dew point there in Winona. So definitely muggy outside. Temperatures warming all the way up into the mid-80s. 85 currently in Mason City. It's 81 here in Rochester. As we look at temperatures locally, mid-80s in northern Iowa, Charles City at 84, 84 in Osage, 75 in Decorah, where we do have some showers taking place. Hour by hour forecast the rest of the evening here. Temperatures getting down into the mid-60s for those overnight lows here tonight. And then those warm conditions continue into tomorrow. With that first alert day, we'll track out the storms that's coming up in your full first alert forecast. Caitlin, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Nick, thank you. We'll give you a couple of minutes here and we'll turn to some other headlines for you tonight. The city of Zumbrota closes its historic covered bridge this morning after high waters caused flooding. As you can see in the video that's being played here, water levels are higher than usual and it is covering its surroundings. KTTC spoke with a Zumbrota resident who goes on walks on the trail near the area every evening. She says she was amazed to see the flooding this morning. The National Weather Service issued a flood warning for multiple Minnesota regions, which included Goodhue County. The city of Zumbrota has closed the bridge until further notice. A new gun bill in the state of Minnesota is now law. Governor Tim Walz signed a bill to increase penalties on straw purchases and ban binary triggers earlier today. KTTC's Quinn Gorham explains more about the new law and the impact proponents hope it has.
It was one of the more hotly contested bills of the end of the legislative session, but Monday, Governor Tim Walz signed one of the only gun bills of the year into law. While the straw purchase penalties aspect of the bill was something that was a bipartisan issue, it was a ban on trigger activators that many Republicans called a poison pill. Monday, law enforcement here in St. Paul expressed their support for both aspects. The bill to increase penalties on straw purchases was actually heard last year, but didn't get all the way across the finish line. Last year's bill was a Republican-authored bill that had bipartisan support, a bill that would make straw purchases a felony in the state law. This year, the bill was revived by DFL Senator Heather Gustafson. While the new bill was initially a clone of the old one, Gustafson introduced a new provision that would ban the ownership of binary triggers. Republicans on the floor voiced their disapproval, but on Monday, members of the law enforcement community said that part of the bill had their full support.
The binary triggers make our communities more dangerous, and when you can shoot more rounds off when you're pulling that trigger, you're more likely to hurt more people. So anything we can do to minimize that and reduce that.
The binary trigger ban is effective on January 1st of 2025. This was, again, one of the only gun bills that made it across the finish line this year. There were two other bills that died in the last days of the legislative session. One that would have required mandatory reporting of lost and stolen firearms, and the other that would have required safe storage of firearms. Both bills died because DFL Senator Grant Hochschild said in the last days of session he would not support them if they came to the floor. Reporting in St. Paul, I'm Quinn Gorham.
3 first responders in Burnsville died earlier this year in a shooting involving a straw purchase weapon. 4 teenagers have been identified as suspects in the investigation of a racial slur observed on a pedestrian bridge on April 14th. That slur was spelled out on public display with plastic cups over East Circle Drive near Century High School. Charges have been referred to the Olmsted County Attorney for 3 16-year-olds and a 17-year-old. Minnesota state statutes allow only the ages of the suspects to be released since the suspects are all under the age of 18. In other news tonight, voting for the Iowa primaries is tomorrow, and Iowa Secretary of State Paul Pate shares what Iowans need to be aware of before the elections begin. According to Pate, Iowa voters need to check if their voter registration is current and up to date. He says if you have moved or haven't registered yet, you can still do so at polling sites with your government-issued ID. That includes your address. Pate explains voters need to declare which party they are affiliated with and choose the appropriate ballot as well. This is a unique part of primaries, where you need to register to vote as one of the parties. He expects the turnout to be lower than that of electing a presidential candidate. However, he feels confident the turnout will be strong. Polling sites will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Pate recommends everyone come voice their thoughts, especially to 18-year-olds. Tonight at 6, we'll also hear from the Cerro Gordo County Auditor on his voter turnout expectations. Voters in the Hawkeye State have already made their picks for the presidential primary, with Donald Trump gaining Republican support and Joe Biden winning the Democratic side. Races on the ballot tomorrow include federal, state, and local offices. There are key races in Iowa's 1st, 3rd, and 4th congressional districts. Several counties will be narrowing down the field of candidates for offices, auditors and sheriffs among them. This year, for the first time since 2018, Libertarians will also be holding primary elections. That's because they got more than 2% of the statewide vote in the last election. That's the minimum requirement to appear as a political party on the ballot. So stay with KTTC tomorrow on air and online as we continue to follow your vote 2024 out of Iowa. Just days after the historic guilty verdict against former President Donald Trump, the sitting president's son now faces his own trial. Hunter Biden is fighting felony charges tied to gun possession while using narcotics. He's pleaded not guilty. NBC's Bree Jackson is in Washington with the details.
For the first time in U.S. history, the child of a sitting U.S. president is heading to trial. Hunter Biden is accused of making false statements when purchasing a gun by checking a box that claimed he was not an active drug user.
It's a federal offense punishable by up to 10 years in prison for somebody to lie on a false form.
The prosecution could call a range of witnesses, including Hunter's ex-wife and the widow of his brother, Beau, whom Hunter had a relationship with. The president's sole surviving son has pleaded not guilty. He's been open about his struggles with substance abuse and claims he was not using drugs at the time. His family stands firmly behind him. First Lady Jill Biden spending parts of her birthday inside the courtroom.
You know, I love my son, and it's hurt my grandchildren, and that's what I'm so concerned about, that it's affecting their lives as well.
President Biden releasing this statement, saying, "As the president, I don't and won't comment on pending federal cases. But as a dad, I have boundless love for my son, confidence in him, and respect for his strength." The president juggling family challenges and a heated political battle.
Hunter is not running for president of the United States. Joe Biden is, and Donald Trump is. And I think that when you measure their character, wisdom, and judgment, you understand very clearly that Donald Trump is a danger to our democracy.
Hunter's legal fight comes on the heels of former President Trump's conviction on 34 felony counts related to his New York hush money case. Criminal courts taking center stage in the 2024 presidential race. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.
Hunter Biden faces a second trial in September on federal tax charges. Last year, the White House said that President Biden will not pardon Hunter Biden if he is convicted. Well, why the LGBTQ+ community may experience higher risks for cancer. That's coming up next in your Health Minute. But first, let's take a look outside at some of the video we saw today. sunshine out there. Things are going to look a little different tomorrow. Nick is tracking the very latest for your first alert day on Tuesday. He's coming up next. We'll be right back.
When severe spring storms hit,
we do have a shelf cloud that's beginning to move in.
Today is shining a light on the challenges those who identify as LGBTQ+ face when it comes to cancer prevention and treatment. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on the research and why the American Cancer Society says this population is likely at higher risk for cancer.
In what it calls a first-of-its-kind study, the American Cancer Society compiled cancer statistics specifically for those who identify as LGBTQ+.
We don't really have information about morbidity and mortality for the LGBTQ positive population because it's not captured that way. We don't have sexual preferences or sexual identity, captured in any cancer mortality data.
But researchers were able to ascertain cancer risk for this community and found LGBTQ+ individuals are likely at higher risk for cancer due to their fear of being turned away from care and discrimination within the healthcare community. The researchers say 30% of medical students surveyed say they are not comfortable treating transgender patients.
In some states, that healthcare providers, based on what's broadly described as religious or personal preferences, can actually refuse to see certain populations, which for us is really a horrifying thought.
Researchers say LGBTQ+ individuals in the U.S. are also more likely to smoke, have excess body weight, and use alcohol heavily, which also adds to their cancer risk.
Our hope is this will really, increase a greater understanding and a greater ability to, target areas of prevention and screening.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The American Cancer Society says this study is just the first step, really. The organization hopes to continue its research to further understand the cancer risk in this population. Well, if you're just joining us for your 5 o'clock news, you notice things look a little different up here. This is not where we usually are. It's because of a technical issue, a short-lived technical issue that should be resolved sometime tomorrow. But Nick, we got weather to talk about. I can't wait.
We do have weather to talk about here coming up for tomorrow. So we do have a first alert day in effect for tomorrow. So as we look at what we're tracking for tomorrow here, what to know, some strong to severe thunderstorms will be possible Tuesday evening. I think the main threats we're looking at will be a hail and wind threat throughout the evening hours tomorrow night, and we're really looking after about 4 p.m. tomorrow. Severe storm outlook tomorrow, a level 2 out of 5 for areas in orange. That does include through Olmsted County and then to the west. So really looking at Highway 52 and west for that best chance for some strong thunderstorms. We'll see some storms fire up along this cold front here that'll push through by about 3 to 4 o'clock. Say for areas west of I-35, and thunderstorms are expected to be somewhat strong, especially for those areas west of the Mississippi River. Right now, a little different. We have some sunshine outside, but you can feel the moisture outside, right? Those dew points warming all the way up into the upper 60s in some spots, so it is humid. As we look at future track radar, we do have showers and thunderstorms that are down to our south and southeast, so just now moving into that southwestern corner there of Wisconsin. Most of us will stay dry here through the rest of the evening hours tonight. That weather maker we're tracking is that low pressure system in Montana. That combined with the cold front that we see behind it, that'll impact us tomorrow and spark some of those thunderstorms. Rainfall timing here, we have that alert day in effect for all of southeast Minnesota, northern Iowa from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. tomorrow night, with that best chance here in Rochester stretching from about 7 until 8:30 tomorrow night. So let's track out those showers and thunderstorms here. Thunderstorm activity continues to move east of Decorah, and then we stay quiet. But take a look at these temperatures here. Overnight, we're still at 10 o'clock, we're at 72, and then watch the lows staying right in those mid 60s, and we'll warm quickly tomorrow. So with some sunshine into the afternoon, some mid to low 80s will be possible, and that a line of thunderstorms starts to organize itself west of Mankato, so out near Marshall, by 12 to 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Cold front starts to move towards I-35 by 4 o'clock, and watch these storms. They race across the region tomorrow evening, with that main line moving past the Highway 52 corridor by 8 to 8:30 tomorrow. So I think for Rochester, looking 7 to 8. For areas west, a little earlier, about 5 to 6 o'clock if you're west of 52. Temperatures then kind of fall back to seasonal averages as we're back down into the mid 50s by Tuesday night into Wednesday. Rainfall forecast here. So rainfall amounts we just picked up anywhere from 2 to 4 inches for areas north of Highway 14 last night into this morning. Areas in blue, another chance of maybe getting close to 3/4 of an inch to an inch of rainfall when all said and done Tuesday night into Wednesday. Tuesday's that best chance for showers and thunderstorms. We have a nice drying out phase here through the rest of the week. So Thursday through Monday, we're looking at those dry conditions in the forecast. Tonight's forecast, 65 for the low here in Rochester. Most of us in northern Iowa, upper 60s for those lows. So most of us, we range anywhere from 65 to maybe 68 for overnight lows here tonight. Forecast tomorrow in the Med-City, 82 for the high. The chance for some showers and thunderstorms after about 4 o'clock for many of us. And we'll continue with that threat for some showers and thunderstorms until maybe 8 to 9 o'clock. So thunderstorms area-wide tomorrow. So we have that first alert day in effect. High temperatures, mid to low 80s for the region. 7-day forecast here. That alert day in effect for Tuesday. Highs on Wednesday. A little cooler, so we're in the upper 70s, still above average, and then we drop down into the low 70s, maybe even some upper 60s on Thursday. We'll have some sunshine Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then into the weekend, high temperatures right back close to seasonal averages, mid to upper 70s with some partly cloudy and mostly sunny conditions Saturday and Sunday. And then by Monday, we still have those temperatures in the mid-70s. So after the first alert day tomorrow, Caitlin, we have those pretty quiet conditions, I think, through the rest of the week, which is good. We kind of need that right after all the active weather that we've had the past couple of weeks.
So tomorrow's that final hurdle in the short term here.
Yep, so keep an eye on the forecast. Download that first alert weather app for tomorrow afternoon. So again, for most of us, about 4 to 10 o'clock tomorrow evening. And then after that, dry conditions, smooth sailing the rest of the week.
All right, Nick, thank you. And we're tracking a major international headline for you that we'll get to right after this.
KTTC weather brought to you by Extreme, powered by Media.
Netanyahu said Israel agreed to the framework for President Joe Biden's plan to bring an end to the war in Gaza, though he said it was, quote, not a good deal, end quote. A deal is yet to be finalized, and while Biden initially called it an Israeli proposal, Israel's official position remains unclear. NBC's Raf Sanchez has more from Jerusalem.
Hey there, 3 days after President Biden stood in front of the world and laid out the details of what he said was an Israeli proposal to free the hostages and end the war in Gaza, the Israeli government is pushing back and saying that is not what they agreed to. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking in front of the Israeli parliament earlier, says he has not agreed to a permanent ceasefire without the destruction of Hamas. President Biden suggested that at this point, 8 months into the war, Israel has done enough damage to Hamas that the terror attack of October 7th cannot be repeated. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying that the president left out key details of this proposal. So we at this point do not know where the Israeli government stands on this proposal. Prime Minister Netanyahu is under intense pressure from the far right of his government, who say that they will topple his cabinet, his government, if he moves forward with this deal. But he's also under pressure from the families of the Israeli hostages who want him to move forward with this deal and do so immediately. We spoke earlier to the parents of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, the 23-year-old Israeli American being held hostage. Take a listen to what they told us.
At this point, on day 241, my feeling is it's enough. What we have not accomplished militarily in 241 days, I don't know that another week or 2 or 5 is incrementally going to really matter, right? And I don't think that those politicians have the right to continue to say, we're going to just ignore 125 of our people. Let them sit there for longer while we continue on this path.
Now, the official number of Israeli hostages in Gaza had been 125. Today, it was lowered to 124. The Israeli military saying that one man who they thought was being held in Gaza was in fact killed on October 7th, and his body has now been found inside of Israeli territory. In Gaza, people there praying for a ceasefire also. The last functioning hospital in Rafah shut down over the weekend, and the United Nations now says more than 1 million Palestinian civilians have been displaced from Rafah amid Israel's ongoing military offensive there. Back to you.
Circling back now to your first alert day for tomorrow. Nick is back with what he's tracking.
Yeah, so a first alert day in effect for Tuesday, and really for Tuesday evening, extending into maybe close to the overnight hours here. So we have a level 2 out of 5 threat level for areas in orange. That does include through Rochester, Albert Lee, Austin, Mason City, Charles City. And this will be in effect, this first alert day, in effect from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. So really looking at those areas west of the Mississippi River. So notice that best chance for some showers and thunderstorms for most of us will be from about 6 until 10 o'clock tomorrow evening. So just be weather aware tomorrow night. I think our main threats will be some hail and some damaging wind in some spots. So tomorrow's forecast, we're looking at 82 for the high here in Rochester tomorrow, looking at mid to low 80s for most of us, and then those chances for showers and thunderstorms across the region. Again, after 4 o'clock, lasting until 10 p.m. So that 6-hour window right during that evening commute is when we'll have the threat for some showers and thunderstorms. 7-day forecast, 82 for the high tomorrow in Rochester. They have that first alert day in effect, and we'll continue with those highs in the mid to low 70s most of the week. A beautiful week in store for most of us this upcoming week. So 70 for the high on Thursday, 72 on Friday, right near seasonal averages. And then we are dry this upcoming weekend with those high temperatures in the mid 70s. So Caitlin, I know it's warm, it's muggy, it's humid today, warm and muggy again tomorrow, and then we have just some nice seasonal late spring, early summer-like temperatures the rest of the week.
It'll remind us why we live in Minnesota and Iowa, right?
Yes, it'll be picture perfect, I think, through most of the week.
All right, Nick, thank you. A look ahead to nightly news coming up right after this.
Anthony Fauci's return to the hot seat before a House committee, why his response to the COVID pandemic was back on the agenda, and our look tonight at why this summer's concert season will have a slower tempo when we see you tonight.
The card game Uno has been around for more than 50 years, but it's more popular than ever with no end in sight.
The toy company Mattel reports that about 1 Uno deck was sold in the U.S. every second last year, nearly 60 decks a minute.
Wow.
That's up from 17 sets each minute 3 years ago. Also, the retail tracking service Circana reports that Uno currently holds the top spot in the traditional games category. The game has held that title for 2 years globally, 3 years now in the U.S. The trend is expected to stay strong. There are currently more than 600 editions of Uno. Mattel says by the end of this year, it'll have more than 50 new editions in circulation. Some celebrate players' love of TV, film, sports, pop culture, and it is not a setup to this story. I spent hours playing with my family
you
last
spent
night.
hours. Okay, are you going to do the stacking one that I just told you about?
I just learned the stacking rule.
Yeah, where you can stack, draw 2s and draw 4s.
And pass the draw down further.
It's a good way to play.
I got some researching to do after the fact. Hey, thanks for bearing with us on this set. We'll be back at 6 o'clock.